So, you guys, I want to introduce you to my friend Luna, is what the name we're going to use to keep her
Hello.
privacy, her privacy,
Okay.
however you want to say it, the two different Englishes. Um,
Ah,
yeah, so Luna is a former coworker of mine's at the regional I work for. We're just going to call that regional Peanut Airlines.
Peanut Airlines.
Peanut
Okay.
Airlines. Yeah. Is that okay?
I like that.
Peanut.
Yes, I like that. I love peanut.
Perfect. So, yeah. So I was Luna's training instructor when she was a new hire, and
Mm-hmm.
just all around friend in general at the Peanut
Yeah.
Airlines.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about yourself, your background, where you're from.
Okay. I was born in Singapore. It's a very tiny island, country, city, state in Asia. And that's where I was born. And I migrated to the United States in 1994.
Okay.
And I started with the main airline in 1999.
You can name them if you
And
want to, since they no
okay,
longer
I
exist.
was okay. US Airways. I
Okay.
started in 1999, but along the way I moved from Singapore to New York, and then from New York to I think Indiana, and then I moved back to Buffalo, and along the way on a reservation, but I'm like a grasshopper hopping around before I started with mainline U.S. Airways in 1999. So
Wow. So this,
that's it.
yeah, I meant to ask you about this whole reservation thing. This was like in
Uh-huh.
upstate New York.
Yes, upstate New York.
Okay.
I was there in 1994 until 1997, I think. That's where, yeah, on and off in upstate New York, a reservation, uh, a city called Salamanca,
Uh,
and the tribe is the Seneca tribe.
okay. Yeah, for those of you
Yeah.
that don't know, she's talking about a Native American reservation. Um,
Yes, yes.
yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting. I was exposed to a very different culture, and I learned a lot. I learned um, to see how they live, and uh, hung out with uh, Catman. Catman is not actually like a cat and a man, but it's just his nickname,
Okay.
or Charlie Red Eye. But he's really, compared to my size and him, they were pretty much uh, big people, like size, like they're like natives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're pretty big to me. But yeah, they're the Senecas. So it's pretty interesting. I got to watch the powwow. That was exciting. That
Mm-hmm.
was amazing. And my former husband, he was a anthropologist, so we traveled a
Oh.
lot. But he was not, he isn't a Native American, but he was born on the reservation.
Your ex-husband, the anthropologist.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow, that's
Yes.
interesting. Ooh, I didn't know.
No.
I love
No.
anthropology. I love anthropology and
Yeah.
sociology, those things.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah,
I
Luna.
know.
Don't worry, because
Yeah.
I listen to my podcast before I send them out, so it will be bleeped.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, interesting culture. Because I've only seen Native Americans on TV, like in a movie, but I've never met a native in real life, you know?
mhm,
So it's interesting. I love it. I love it there.
yeah,
Just because for me, I feel like I'm an outsider, being Asian and an outsider. And, there's no like a TP or anything. It's just that, it's interesting to meet the Native Americans there,
mhm,
Yep,
yeah, okay,
yep. And then, yeah, I got to see like, they hunt deers and stuff and how they skin them. I got to see all that. So I was blessed.
okay, wow.
It's a very different culture. Culture shock for me coming from Asia.
I mean, it would be a culture shock for me as an American,
Wow,
period, to go
yeah.
to a Native American living indigenously living
Yes,
that
yes.
way. So, um,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm kind of
yeah,
jealous of your experience. But
yeah.
so let's move on to you. You were working after that. You said you got a
Uh-huh.
job with U.S. Airways in
Yes,
1999. Um,
yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
how long did you do
Mm-hmm.
that as a flight
Okay,
attendant?
so yeah, I started in 1999 with US Airways, and I was, the training was, I believe, 6 weeks or 8 weeks. I cannot remember because it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
But the training was very intensive because we had at that time I was trained on the Boeing's 737, 200, 300, 400, 757s, and then I did 747, and I did on MD-80, DC-9. So there was a lot of
Uh,
planes that I
the
was
seven
trained
five,
on.
right? You did the 7.5 as well, correct?
Seven fives?
The
Did you
seven
say
five
seven
seven.
fives? Yeah, 757. I did the Airbuses, but I was more doing the Boeings than the
Okay.
Airbus. Then yeah, I wasn't exposed to the Airbuses
Well,
because they
you
were kind of new. They were kind
okay?
of new when I was in 1999. It was like new purchased or something. But yeah, yeah.
Did you
So
do mostly international versus domestic or a mixture?
I a mixture. I did like after I graduated, my first international trip was Toronto.
Mm-hmm. Ooh la
And
la.
then I know, right? We're gonna talk about that because at Peanut Airlines we did that too.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I did Puerto Rico, but uh it wasn't like overnight, I don't I guess Puerto Rico is because it's over water, equipment over water. I
Mm-hmm.
guess it's international if it's equipment over water or EOW they call it. Um,
Okay.
so I think that's international.
I mean, well,
Not too that
technically, if you're Puerto Rican, you're a U.S. citizen because it is U.S. territory,
right,
but you are leaving the
right.
continental U.S. So,
Okay, see,
yeah,
I'm learning this from
yeah.
you now.
I mean, Hawaii
Uh,
is a state, Alaska is a state, but in order to
right,
get
right.
there, you got to go over water to go to Hawaii. So,
Right,
um,
right. Yeah, I had pretty interesting stories when I was with US Airways, like
hmm
close calls and stuff. A few of those,
what kind of calls?
if you want to know. Close calls, like, like emergencies.
Oh, I got what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's a close calls.
Oh, got you.
But,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. But for the most part of it, it was not as bad experiences,
Uh huh.
because it was not. But that those close call, the one when I mentioned, I thought that we're gonna go down.
Really? Yeah. To
We were going
do
down. Hmm.
tell. What?
Okay, so I believe it was Boeing flight going to Philadelphia. So what happened was it was snowing, and then I could not remember where we were flying from, but there were three flight attendants, and the flight was full, and it was not too far from landing, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
approaching Philadelphia. And what happened was we were going through hailstorm. So I was the C flight attendant. Back then we had A, B, C. Now in mainline, I don't know what they call 1, 2, 3 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the they assigned you your duty title. So I was the C flight attendant assisting the first class flight attendant. She was the A flight attendant, and then the back is I'm sorry, was the B flight attendant.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, uh, we did not get any. We did not prep the plane, but as the hail hit the top of the plane. I don't know, what do we call the top of the plane? What do we call that? You know, the roof of the plane. As the
Mm-hmm.
hail was hitting us down, it kind of brought us down, and we were strapped in, and it was like literally almost approaching, but it was the most scariest approach because the plane was putting us towards the ground, and it was shaking really bad left and right, and the tapping was bad from the hail, and
Mm-hmm.
I could hear from the cockpit it says pull up, terrain,
Oh, you were
pull
right
up.
behind. Oh, yeah, that does sound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So everybody was quiet. Since I was sitting in the aisle kind of the jump seat, I could see everybody were looking at me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, are we gonna crash or what? Just let us know. But we
Yep.
weren't even informed from the cockpit of what to do. But I think they were busy because they were trying hard to not, you know, go down.
Yeah.
So all I could hear, and the first class passengers could hear terrain, pull up, terrain, pull up. So that was like scariest, but I had to keep my cool, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I saw and could hear people were throwing up.
Oh,
So
y'all had
it
some
was bad.
really, really bad
Yeah,
turbulence.
yeah, the turbulence was bad, and the flight was going left and right. Like when you're trying to land or descend, it was like a straight kind of shot. You're not
Yeah.
swaying. This plane was swaying. Um, we landed anyway. It was the longest 15 minutes, I would say, or 20 minutes, because the pilot was working hard and not letting us know what to do. But we
Yeah.
landed
He was busy.
safely with people puking. Yeah, yeah. People were puking, and then as soon as we touched the ground, everybody was on the phone.
Oh.
Everybody was on their phone, because they were thinking like we're gonna hit the ground because it was pretty loud and everybody was quiet. And it was at night. You couldn't see anything. And
Mm-hmm.
you just most of the first class passengers were all looking at me.
Oh, I
And
bet.
it was scary. It was scary. And then the when we landed, we didn't really talked about it. But the pilot was like, "Everybody okay?" And this was like going to our hotel. We were waiting for our transportation to the hotel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I knew that when we, let people off the plane, everyone was sick.
Yeah.
And I did not do the report or anything because it would be the a flight attendant. It was like nothing was reported, but the plane got damaged.
Oh, really?
That's what. Yeah, the plane was damaged, and the back flight attendant, call out the next day. So that
Oh,
was
she was
how I
shook.
remembered. Yeah, it's especially in the back. It's
Yeah, it feels
probably
different.
worse than the front.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was
So you
one
would say that
incident.
was you had
Yeah,
severe turbulence?
yeah, I would say severe turbulence when people started puking, and then the tapping, the tapping of the plane from the hail. It's like a knocking tapping sound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
It
sounds
was
scary.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a little bit of PTSD
Did you?
from that. Yeah, but I kept flying. It's just that when I think I did not know what movie I watched, and it had the same kind of incident, except not from hail, but from
A
the
gremlin?
captain. I don't
Was it
know.
from a
It
gremlin?
has
I feel like you were watching the Twilight
no. It
Zone.
wasn't a gremlin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
I'm just
it's
kidding.
like the PTSD was like, okay, what whenever I heard pull up, terrain, terrain,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of like hit me again. I'm trying to
Oh.
remember what's the name of the movie that I watched, and it was in a theater, and I got like anxiety from that. Like, holy, and it's not from the tapping of the hail. It's just when the captain, no, no, it's not the captain, but when you hear the pull up, terrain,
Yeah.
terrain, when the
The
system was
computer.
making that.
The computer in the flight
Yeah,
deck. Yeah.
yes, yes, So that was scary. That was my first experience. The rest was like either we were almost gonna crash into it was like Boston, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There's two airports in Boston. Chicago. I'm sorry, Chicago Midway. It was by the water. We almost landed there, but we didn't call emergency.
What do you
We
mean
just
you almost landed there?
we almost landed in. I think Chicago Midway had like a stream or bay or water, whatever. I believe, because were we we almost like the captain had to use the brake, to
Whoa.
stop really, really sudden brake, you know?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I was so new, like why is this happening, So fresh flight attendant. And then that was like the scariest moment, but I do have some funny moments too, if you want to hear it.
Yeah. Well, before we move on, because my
Uh,
my audience is mixed.
oh, okay.
Explain, because I and this podcast is from a regional point of view, so I can't really
Okay.
reference
Okay.
mainline unless I'm doing like a news story or something. But
Right.
from a major airline point of view, you were talking about the ABC flight attendant. Explain to like the audience what
Yeah.
that is.
Okay. The A flight attendant is the lead flight attendant. That means she's responsible for the first class service, and basically she's the lead flight attendant. The C flight attendant is back then was, I should say was, assisting her during pre-boarding. Either she delivered the drinks, or I delivered the drinks while she made the first class service. It's called pre-boarding.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-boarding. So they get their drinks first, whatever they want. So, in terms of when we are in the air, my job was to assist the B flight attendant, which is in the back. So when we were up in the air, ready to do our service, I would go to the back and help the B flight attendant. So she's the B flight attendant is in charge of the back doors, and then I would be in charge of the just in case if we have to evacuate
And
the
you
left
normally acted
the
as
aircraft right door.
the B, Luna?
Um, sometimes, when I was starting out, I just wanted to do C, and
Okay.
then in 1 year, I was comfortable. I do the B because B was fun all by myself. I sat in the
Okay.
jump seat all by myself. Sometimes we have D flight attendant, and that all depends because sometimes we have D throughout our trips, or sometimes the D will, get off the plane and do something else. Those were the days that I remembered. I love having D flight attendant
Mhm.
because I did not have to help the back unless I was done with my service helping the A flight attendant, which is the front, serving the first class passengers. So
Now,
yeah,
doesn't
that
it
was
depend on how many seats you have on the aircraft? Because in one of my podcasts, I was letting
yeah.
people know that it's one flight attendant per 50 passengers. So it depends on the modification of
Yes,
that cabin.
I yes, I exactly, and I think 737-200. I think it was three flight attendants because it's over 120 124 passengers, I believe. And yeah, I cannot recall like 737 300 or 400, like maybe it's like close to 140ish, maybe.
Okay.
It's yeah, if it's more than 120, then they have to have like more than two flight attendants.
Yes.
But this was Boeing, and it was so different. Now everything is different. I don't see 737 200 300 or 400 anymore. It's like 737 800, you know.
Mhm.
I don't think 2, 3 and 4 exist anymore. They've retired.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
with US Airways, I don't know with other airlines. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a funny stories too.
Mhm.
I don't know whether
You can
we
tell
have
us one.
time.
Yeah, you can tell us one.
Uh, so so we weren't really trained on those plastic trays. I don't know whether you remember. Um, we were coming from, I believe, DC. I was based in DC at one point, and then we had to go to Toronto. And when we were in training, we were not given like a lot of time to how to open really the trays. Back
Mhm.
then they used trays for like the hot plate food or uh, cold food. I remember it was like probably a tray of chicken sandwich or something. But it was in a tray, plastic tray where you have to clip on the side. But we weren't really trained on that
Mhm.
much. So on our first flight after graduation, we had to do Toronto, and I was like sweating. I'm like, oh my gosh, we had to, prepare the cabin for arrival, meaning we had to, take all the trays and then the plate on the. It was a hot mess because I could not I just could not finish what I was doing. And during landing,
Uh huh.
passengers were all had their trays on their lap, and it was so dangerous.
You know that
I
happened.
thought that we were gonna get that. Huh?
That happened
Be-
on an Air Asia
yeah, I mean,
flight. Did you hear that? They got caught. Somebody videotaped the passengers on it. I think it was Air Asia, and the passengers still
uh,
had their tray tables down and their food and stuff while they were
yeah. Oh
landing,
my God.
which is a
Oh
no
my God.
no.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a no. Oh
It's
my
still a no
gosh.
no. But
Yeah, I was supposed, I believe I was supposed to be in the front helping the flight attendant in the front, but I ended up being with the flight attendant at the back. So it was all wrong. Everything was wrong on my first flying experience. And I wanted to quit because it was very wrong,
really,
very dangerous. Yes.
it was that
But
bad. You wanted to quit. Wow.
yes, it was really bad. But the funny part was I remember the back flight attendant, the B flight attendant, was my classmate. They put all new hires on the first flight, and that should not have happened because at least we need a senior flight attendant to do
Yeah,
that flight, you know.
to
But
guide you.
all three of us, new hires, brand new, literally out of training, they put us it was just all wrong. But the
Wow.
next day, yeah, but the next day, and we all were like classmates. um we continue, we weren't doing any more like service. I think we went back to I did not really know what happened the next day, but just that night I wanted to quit.
Wow.
Or we felt like we're gonna call it, got called from the supervisor, in-flight supervisor or something, like you're fired, but we did not know what happened.
But this was in
The
'99, right?
Yeah, it was in 99.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it was
people didn't have
just my first
smartphones
flight.
then to record that
It,
like they do now. So you lucked out.
I know, right? The wonder of social media now is really bad, but it can be good, it can be bad. But then nobody
Hmm.
was recording, you know,
Yeah,
nobody was complaining, you know. But I knew that if FAA was there, we would probably reprimand it.
yeah. But I mean,
But I,
honestly, they put you out there, all three of you brand new.
yeah, brand new.
Yeah, that's
Yup,
ridiculous on their part.
yup. It was like, oh my gosh, could not believe that we were, you know, flying to international, and everybody's, I mean, everybody's tray was still down. The food tray was on the tray. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
So
just
it was, yeah. I thought it was funny now, but then it wasn't.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I endured it, and then 2001 happened, right? I think
Yes,
September 11th,
correct.
isn't it 2001? Yeah,
September 11th, correct. Mm-hmm.
September 11th. Yeah, that happened. So that kind of changed the industry. Like recently we had COVID, but back then with mainline, I endured the September 11th. But luckily, I wasn't flying. I was still on maternity leave. But few days after that, I was called to Philadelphia to work a flight. This was like 2 days after 9/11.
Wow.
It was different. It was so quiet. It was scary. It was kind of like a post COVID where all airports
So you
were
were called
empty.
to work of, oh, so you just helped moving a flight somewhere. Yeah, because I'm like, how would you?
Yeah.
Because I didn't work for
Uh,
a couple of weeks or a little bit more after 9/11.
wow. Yeah. We,
Oh,
we had to bring like three passengers. It wasn't, it was like resuming of service. And I remembered the passengers were not even full. There was like three passengers, and the airport was empty. All I could hear was my footsteps. And that reminded me when I went home in 2020, 2021. I was in Tokyo, but not with any airline. I was just going back home to see my family in 2021. And the Tokyo Narita airport was super quiet. And that brought me again PTSD from 2001 because the
Wow.
airport was quiet, in
Mhm.
Philadelphia. And that was where I based with Peanut Airlines. So,
Yes.
except Peanut Airlines was doing their terminal was Terminal F, right? Still F.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
since I am no longer a flight attendant now. Yeah, so but yeah, it was scary. It was
Yeah.
scary. It
So.
was a memory, really sad memories. But you know,
Mhm. Speaking of,
but now things seems okay, normal, operational, normal now,
well, sorta. Yeah. It is.
sort of.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh-huh.
people are still acting up on airplanes. It's still a lot of
Yes, yeah,
incidents than there were in
yeah,
2019, but it's not as bad as 2021 or
yeah,
2022. But there's still stuff
yeah.
going
Oh my
on.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. But speaking of
See, but
Peanut Airlines, um,
mm-hmm,
let's talk about those
mm-hmm.
differences. What
Oh,
you like working for
oh,
that regional versus U.S. Airways.
okay. As a regional flight attendant, the plane was different. I had to adjust. Even though I left the airline from mainline, I stayed home for 10 years, or from 2000, and I resigned mainline in 2004. I moved back to Singapore,
U.S.
and then
Airways.
I
Hmm.
yeah, with mainline US Airways, and then I moved. My daughter was a baby. She was born in 2001, and then
Hmm.
I went back to work September, and then I was at home when the two plane hit the World Trade Centers, and then it was funny. I was ready. I was called back to work because my maternity was up, so I had to leave my daughter. Um, so I got to watch my kids after I left mainline in 2004. I got to, my son was born in Singapore when I moved back to Singapore. But anyway, there was definitely much different with the passengers' behavior. Uh, when September 11 happened, people were so much nicer to one another. But I heard, since I took off the COVID, the Peanut Airline offered, you can take leave because then it will help not uh, current flight attendants get laid off. So I took the voluntary furlough leave, whatever they call that.
Yep.
So the passengers, I heard from the news, or the passengers were very aggressive during COVID. So it's two different times, two different event tragedies,
Yeah.
and people with two different characteristics of passengers and flight attendant. Passengers uh, fight more from
Yeah.
COVID, and then flight attendants get beat up. So I was lucky that I took a year off.
Hmm.
Or actually, I took, a year off, and then a year off. So it's definitely different. Job wise, because you are solo flight attendant, passengers, you are the only one. You do more work, um, from pre-boarding to um, when they deplane. You it's so much work to do, so much work. It's so different. Um, what I like about it was I was given a chance to be a trainer like you.
Uh-huh.
Plus, I always wanted to give back and help flight attendants, like I know the feeling of how scared you were when you graduated and be on your own. So I know the feeling, and I love being a trainer. But a lot of work in Peanut Airlines because you have to put your catering away. Um, it's a very petite aircraft,
Well, my podcast is
so
called My Needle
it's so
Jet.
much different.
So that tells people how small it
Needle
is. The,
jet,
the
yeah,
needle jet. Yeah, that's what they call it. Or the dart.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you're in close
yeah,
quarters.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is small. Everything is the area, the space. Um, usually passengers would always say, "Oh my gosh, this is a small plane,"
And they still
and
do.
yeah, and then mentally you need to tell yourself that don't get personal because you are the
Professional.
what is it the you are the professional, because I feel like my that aircraft is my home,
Mm-hmm.
so they are the guest, I'm the host of my home, and I try not to get offended when they say stuff like that, passengers, because they don't know, they don't know what they don't know, it's a different aircraft. So those are the differences with mainline and regional. Regional is smaller, especially with Peanut Airlines, and it's great for smaller people, but it's not great for the tall and passenger of size. Is that what they call it? Passenger of size? It's been a while.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
passenger
passenger of
side.
size.
No, it's not very good for passengers the size. I don't think that
No,
aircraft is
no,
very good for people with
period.
disabilities. Yeah, with like the
No,
center
not at
aisle.
all.
Yeah, the center aisle
Yeah,
chair. That is a big
yes,
struggle. Um, I,
yeah,
I don't like that at all.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Me,
had a
me.
passenger size. I
Uh,
had a passenger size that came out to his body came out to the aisle 5 inches, and the aisle space
wow.
is what 12 inches. Yeah, we had to move him
Yeah.
to the very last row because he was blocking me
Oh,
from going to do my duties because that's how
oh.
much of his body was
How,
coming out.
right, right. How was he responded
Oh,
to
I
you
mean,
moving him?
I handled him with kid gloves. Well, he didn't really have a choice. It's either like you move to the very last row, which wouldn't block me from doing my duties,
Yeah,
my walkthroughs and stuff, or he would have
yeah,
to get off.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Because
yeah,
we were all safety personnel. Safety
yeah.
comes first. But yeah, me personally, I believe it's for people from Asia because they're smaller.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Uh,
Yeah, but I mean, as far as
yeah,
like there's some people that come from other larger airlines and they come and work for Peanut Airlines, which is a regional, and sometimes a
yeah,
lot of times they like it better because they are by themselves. Because three can be
yes,
a crowd.
yes,
3 to 5 flight attendants can be a crowd. I've deadheaded in non-revs on flights where there's like
yeah,
3 or 5 flight
yeah,
attendants, and you can feel the
yeah,
tension, and they are not getting along with each
yeah,
other. So we have
yeah.
a lot of people that come
True.
from that environment, and they like being by themselves. They like Peanut Airlines
Yeah,
because they can run their own
yeah,
show. So that's what
yeah,
that's the kind of comparison I'm talking about. And do you feel that way, or would you rather be with a
yeah.
group?
Um,
Okay, what's up, folks? So yeah, I have a story for you now. I'm finding all these blogs, and this one is called Aviation A to Z. aviationatoz.com. This is a new one for me, as they all mostly are. But anyway, so this story is by Bhavya Valani, and that is spelled Bhavya Valani. I can hack that. Anyway, it's titled U.S. Airlines, including American, United, Delta, and Southwest. Southwest. Want you to dress properly. So it says, ditch the sweatpants, the importance of implementing a dress code for air travel. And to that I say, good luck. So, anyways, it goes on. It says, United States, the time has come to establish a dress code for U.S. airline passengers. And this is a serious matter. We're not talking about the minimal standards buried deep within ticket contracts that prohibit boarding with bare feet or wearing patently offensive clothing. This is true. An effective dress code or at least a dress recommendation is needed. Yeah. Let me just stop this article right here. Yeah, it's going to be a dress recommendation, but to try to enforce a dress code, they need, honey, get a grip. So, anyways, it goes on to read, subsequently, to set clear standards for appropriate attire during flights. So, U.S. airline dress codes. Well, surprisingly, many passengers would actually welcome a dress code. Jane Angelic, I don't know, an executive coach and frequent air traveler from Palm Beach, Florida, expressed her belief that airlines should implement a basic dress code. She believes that air travelers dressing appropriately would contribute to a pleasant and positive travel experience. Subsequently, for themselves, the crew, and fellow passengers. The immediate appeal of a dress code lies in the fact that there has been a noticeable decline in manners on board flights. According to a report by the International Air Transportation Association, that's IATA, unruly passenger incidents worldwide increased in 2022 compared to the previous year. Let me stop this article right here. I'm going to tell you right now, it ain't got nothing to do with no goddamn dress code. That is pandemic behavior, period. And leftover pandemic behavior. Wind down pandemic behavior. That is all that was. Don't even go there with the dress code. But anyway, back to the article. So further, the organization reported an unruly incident for every 568 flights last year. It is up from 1 per 835 flights in 2021. Passengers and some psychologists believe that people may behave more respectfully if they dress up properly before their flight. Subsequently, they will be less likely to engage in disruptive behavior. Okay, I'm going to stop this article right here, and I'm not going any further because I got a lot to add to this. Get the hell out of here. This behavior, and this is my opinion. This behavior ain't got nothing to do with dress, none of that ish. This crap starts at home. Some of these people were raised in barns, apparently. If you don't have proper, as we call it in the black community, not all of us, but some, but most, if you don't have any home training, then you are going to get on these flights and act a fool. Now, if you have home training, I don't care whether you get on a bus, Amtrak, train, of course, or an airplane, you're going to be a hot mess and you're going to act like
a damn fool.
So it all starts at home. It's nothing to do with your dress. I know what they're trying to say and go with this whole dress thing, but honestly, I've had people that have gotten on my flights looking, I don't know how to even describe it. Homeless? Raggedy, hot mess, whatever. But when you speak to them and you engage with them, their manners are excellent. And I've had people well-dressed acting like complete trash. And I mean trash. Very well-dressed. You know they got money. But because of that, they have this arrogance. And they just think they can do whatever they want. Be how they want to be. Talk however they want in public. Because they are well off. And that is their attitude. So, again, I don't know what the hell these fools are talking about. These people are just going to be fighting in better clothes. That's all. Acting a goddamn fool in better clothes. Now, I do think that you should not come to the airport in your underwear or a bustier. Leggings are a whole nother story. They are a whole nother story. If leggings are wear properly, then that's one thing. People come to the airport as if they're going to Planet Fitness. And I am not exaggerating. I see this crap all the time. But I've had those people come on dressed that way and they act like they have some goddamn sense. Why? Why do you say? Why do you wonder? Because they have
home training.
or in other words, they were raised right. In other words, they were brought up correctly.
However you want to put it.
So that's my 2 cents. You can do whatever you want with it. I'm going to stop the podcast right here because me and Luna had a very lengthy conversation, and I will have to continue that in part 2 of this bonus podcast. I know I said this would be the last episode, but because I have more material, I'm going to give you a total of 4 bonus episodes. 2 have already aired. This is the 3rd one, and then the 4th one will be the final of the bonus episodes. So far anyway, unless I change my mind. Yeah, so come back to part 2 of I was a former flight attendant with my friend Luna. And in part 2, I will catch you up to some airline news as well. What's going on, what people have been doing, acting crazy on flights and so forth. Thank you for listening. Fly safe.